that England threw out the Jews in 1290. They didn't allow Jews, they sent them out, and they let them back in the 1600s. One of the things that the Goyim wanted to use against the Jews, Kol Nidre. Because Kol Nidre, we say, any Nidarim, we want to remove Nidarim. So the Goyim wanted to say, you see, you can't trust the Jew. They'll tell you something, and they say Kol Nidre, and they don't have to be, whatever they say. But obviously, that's not the truth. Obviously, we're not looking to say something and to change just to get out of it. That's not the point of Kol Nidre. So they used it as anti-Semitic to show that they. But thank God there was one of the, the rabbis explained that it doesn't mean that, And, okay, we are on Yud Gimel Amud Beis 13b. In the art scroll, we are on 13b 4. 13b4 on the left side. Amalei, we left off with Rabbi Akiva. Yesterday we left off with the question of Rabbi Akiva. What was the question of Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva said that something that has capital punishment, the Torah says we're going to kill the person, the court kills the person. Something that the court kills, the court does not give out malchut. Why doesn't the court give out lashes to such a person? Because when the lashes, what is the source? What is the source for lashes? When the Torah says don't do something and you violated, you didn't follow what the Torah said, so it said don't do it, and you did it, you'll get maybe lashes for that. But here the Torah says don't do it, and the punishment will be death by the court. So the don't do is not coming to tell us you're going to get lashes. The don't do is telling us the guy will get killed by the court. So there's no source for teaching us the guy gets lashes. For instance, the Torah says, let's say the Torah says, I want you to put on if you have a four-cornered garment, you have to put on tzitzit. If you don't put on tzitzit, you don't get, if you take a four-cornered garment, let's say, and you take it and you don't put on tzitzit on the four-cornered garment, do you get lashes? No. What do you say? You're over mitzvah say. There is no, because the Torah didn't give us a teaching that you get lashes. Because on which type of things does the Torah teach us to get lashes, and what type of cases? When the Torah says, don't do something, and you went ahead and you did it, that violation of the Torah says, don't do, and you did, get lashes. The Torah tells you to do something, and you don't follow. The Torah says, I want you to do something, you don't do it, then you don't get lashes. Being inactive, you don't get lashes. When the Torah says to do something, don't do something, and you went in, you did an action. So by the fact, the Torah says, don't do something, that's called a losase. So we need the don't in order for us to give the guy the lashes, right? We'll only get lashes if what? The Torah says, don't do it, and he went ahead and he did it. So if the Torah says, don't muzzle your animal when it threshes, when it works in the field, when it's threshing, don't do it. You went ahead and you muzzle it, what's that, 1 second? Then you get lashes. Now, Torah says, don't kill. So is that don't kill coming to tell us if you kill you get lashes? Well, the don't kill, the Torah says don't kill, because if you kill, the court will kill you. What is the point of that don't kill? Yes. Morning, Morris. Thank you very much, Morris, for your help. In general, yes. Would you Malchus and death? But to get Malchus, or meaning, now the Gemara says, now we know the rule, according to what Rabbi said yesterday, we're not going to give him both lashes and death. But what about if you just warn him about Malchus and you didn't warn him about death? Would we give him Malchus? You never can. The court can never give a punishment unless the guy was warned. What? So what's the case? What? Very good. So if the Torah says don't kill, or don't machal Shabbat, and we warn the guy, we tell him, sir, if you should know, if you violate the Shabbat, you're going to get the death penalty. We're not going to give him, point to the Gemara now, everybody agrees we won't give him both Malkut and death penalty. We're not going to give him both punishments. Even Rabbi Yishmael, the Gemara now says, would agree, you wouldn't give him both. This is the Gemara now. Different understanding of Rabbi Yishmael. The only thing is, Rabbi Yishmael would hold, if instead of telling him, if you violate the Shabbat, or if you murder, you get the death penalty, you told him, if you violate the Shabbat, you're going to get lashes. Malkut. That's what you told the guy. Certainly, you're not going to kill him, because you never told him, you never warned him that he's going to get killed for it. Would you give him lashes? You warned him, Mr. Safety, is that clear? You warned him about you told him you're going to get lashes. Morning, Jay. I mean, really, if you would have warned him about death penalty, he would get the death penalty. But you didn't warn him about the death penalty. What did you warn him about? Lashes. Is there lashes for a crime that carries with it, that has potential to carry with it death penalty? That's called alav shenitein lahazrat mitat bezdin. It's a very important rule. A lav means what? Not a don't do that has in it the nitain has to give that's coming also to create a warning to create death to the person. Would that don't do also carry in it the idea of lashes? Right. So all of those that the Torah says that the death penalty by the court. What happens if they didn't warn him for death? They warned him for lashes. Is there lashes? That's the machloket? That's what Rava says. Correct, Jay? That's the machloket between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says no. Since it's coming to give death penalty, that lav is not coming for lashes. There's no lashes under such a violation. What do you say? No lashes. Even if you warned them about lashes. That's not the punishment. The Torah never gave lashes. That's the case. So the Gemara yesterday said, okay, if that's the case, why, when the Torah says, don't do a certain sins that carry with it kareh, a sister, a nidah, why do we say in such a circumstance, Rabbi Akiva says, we're going to give him, if you warned him, you said, by the way, if you do this, you're going to get lashes. Rabbi Akiva says, we're going to give him the lashes. We should say the same logic. That losa, say that line, what Torah says, don't do, was coming for, that don't do was coming to tell us correct. The same way when it comes to death penalty with the quote, you say the lav is coming to tell us death penalty, not lashes. So why by an item that carries current, the Torah says, don't sleep with one sister. So you should say the Torah is telling you that don't, and then the Torah says, if you sleep with one sister, you get correct. So that lav, that don't do, is coming to tell us, don't sleep with one sister, you get coming to tell us correct. It's not coming to tell us lashes. So why does Rabbi Akiva hold that something that's chayiv parade, if you warn them about lashes, they'll get lashes? That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Why? What's the difference? Why is, if we should say that the warning of the Torah, when the Torah says don't do it, is coming to tell us, it's telling us that they're, because if you do this thing, you will get kareh. That's it. There's Mr. Safdie, there's no lashes here also. Why should we should say that we should identify the don't of the Torah? It's telling us because if you, I'm telling you, if you do this, he'll get lashes. Sorry, he'll get kareh, and not. So where does lashes come in? Where does lashes come in if the don't of the Torah should be telling us? What are you saying? The don't of the Torah should be telling us for kareh. That's true. You're only supposed to get one punishment. The Gemara is saying, so that's two punishments. Right. And you, right, but that was, very good. That was a different answer of the Gemara. The Gemara says that the idea you can't give two punishments, the court can't give two punishments. So therefore, lashes, when a violation that carries with the karet, court is only giving one punishment. But that was a different answer to the Gemara. Now the Gemara is, what'd you say? Say it again. But the court is only doing that. It's only executing. But that's not the court doing it. The court down here is not involved in doing that. So the one answer to the Gemara is what Navid said. That the Torah says you can't give two. The Torah says the court can't give two punishments, but you yourself, but the court can give one punishment. The fact that the heavenly court is going to give karet, that's not the court down here. The court down here can only give one punishment. Say it again. No, but that would answer, because the court down here, because one is the court, because we're going to the court down here. Because when it comes to the court down here, they could give lashes, they're giving one punishment. No, so this would hold that it has the same law of every losa say of the Torah that carries with it lashes, but here it's lashes plus. That's how Rabbi Akiva would. I'm saying lashes. There's lashes for this violation. There's karet for this violation, and if the guy. Right, if it's capital punishment, the court will only give one, and if there's lashes and karet, the court also will only give. The court is only able to give one. Right. Therefore, they can give lashes. Therefore, the court could give lashes. Right. But that's the answer to the Gemara. Yes. Not everyone. There's there are there's going to be exceptions. Brit Milah and Korban Pesach. There's no lashes if a guy does not give himself a Brit Milah. There's no lashes if the guy does not bring a Korban Pesach, but there is karet. But let's say he, even when he can't fix it up, let's say the guy Pesach Sheni came and he didn't fix up Pesach Sheni, he will still not get lashes. And I'm going to get to that soon in the Gemara. But the Gemara is now coming back with a different approach. We're not going that approach. That's a different answer. The Gemara is now saying a different answer. It's all about what is this law when the Torah says don't do it. What is this don't do coming to teach us? Is it coming to teach us that it's telling you if you do this action, you're going to get a certain punishment. You're going to get a punishment, the guy's going to punish of death. So therefore, the losas say is not coming to tell us lashes. Lashes is not on the table here. Don't do it because the Torah is telling you, I'm telling you, don't do it. I'm telling you, this is the Torah's warning. Don't do it because if you do this, the Torah, God is telling the Jewish community, this sin you shouldn't do. And if you do it, it's death. So the Torah, this don't do has nothing to do with lashes. It's all about what? Death. So therefore, if they warn the guy about lashes, on this case, he won't give him lashes. Is that clear, Dr. Navid? So that's the Gemara's question. How could you? That's exactly the Gemara's question. You can only differentiate if you're coming with using that logic. But if you're coming with the logic that the don't do is coming not for lashes, it's coming for something higher. It's coming for death of a court, and therefore it's not coming lashes. Because by that logic, the Gemara says we should not give him lashes, even by case of karet. Because we should say that the don't do is telling us don't do it because you'll get your own karet. This is the sin that gets karet. Mr. Safdie, is that clear? Yeah. So why is it that Rabbi Akiva says that in the case that carries karet, when the Torah says don't do it, we're going to give him lashes? Okay. So the Gemara, but if the Gemara is learning, that's a good point. That the lash maybe we could take off the karet, but the Gemara is saying at this point, but there's no lashes at all. The Torah never came to tell us that when to give him lashes, because the don't do of the Torah is because don't do it because this sin carries with it parade. That's the Gemara's question. So how does Rabbi Akiva differentiate between a don't do that leads to a punishment by the court of death, or don't do which is a punishment of parade? Both don't do's we should say is coming to teach us either parade or death of the court, but not lashes. So why do we give the guy lashes when it comes to a don't do of a case that has parade? That is the Gemara's question on Rabbi Akiva. Exactly. Not all. In general, yeah.
This one is we have, right?
Right.
So now the guy was more of a all we don't do is
Right.
but some we go. Now we
Will we give him lashes in a case that has potential? The case in a sin that has potential of correct or potential of death of the court. Does that type of sin have the ability to give him lashes if you warned them about lashes? Let's say again. So Rabbi Akiva says it depends. What type of sin was the guy doing? If you warned them about a sin that carries with the karet, and you told them you're going to get lashes, we'll give them lashes. If you warn them about a sin that carries with death penalty, you warn them about lashes, we're not going to give them the lashes. Nothing. The court down here is not going to do anything there. What? B'meizid. Meaning, practically, the court down here is not going to do anything to the guy. Just like the shogeg court down here doesn't do anything. In heaven, they'll deal with it. Court down is not going to do. So Gemara wants to understand how do we explain this phenomenon that when it comes to a don't do that has potential of death of the court, and then you warn the guy about don't do this, you'll get lashes. We're not going to give him lashes. But if the don't do that has potential of parade, of getting cut off in the next world, and you warn them about lashes, we're going to give him lashes. In both cases, we should say that the don't do is coming to teach us either parade or death by the court, and it's not coming to tell us about lashes. That's the Gemara. What? Very good. That's what now you're on to the Gemara's answer. Very good. Very good. He wanted to say that maybe current cases don't really need this don't do of the Torah to get the correct. If you don't need that don't do, so therefore the don't do is not coming to tell us correct. If cases that carry correct don't need the Torah to tell us don't do this, because if you do this, you get correct. It doesn't need to get correct. To hurry after warn the guy. The Torah doesn't have to say a language of don't do this because you're going to get correct. You don't need that. I'll show you an example. Torah says, bring a korban Pesach on Pesach. The Torah tells us don't go without a korban Pesach. Is it a don't do or is it a do case? What is the case of the korban Pesach? It's a do case. What I want you to do. Is it a don't case? No. So there is no don't do of the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell us don't do it. Torah tells us what? There's no lo say. It's only an say what you need to do. And even though you did not bring a korban Pesach, and then he had an opportunity to fix up his sin, he had Pesach Sheni, and he didn't bring it on Pesach Sheni, what will happen? If he didn't bring it on Pesach Sheni, he's gonna get korban. Even though there was no don't do of the Torah never told us in a language of don't do. So when the Torah says, good to see you, thank you for saying hello. The Torah never said a don't do. In order to incur the penalty of korban, You don't need a Torah to tell us, don't do this sin. The Torah could just tell you what you need to do, and you'll get, and that's enough for that. If they get correct, you don't need the don't of the Torah to get correct.
So
If that's the case, lashes, the only time you get lashes is when the Torah tells you about the sin. I don't want, God says in the Torah, I don't want you to do this. When God says in the Torah, don't wear shatnez. God says, don't use a razor blade on your beard. Keep Shabbat, no, but keep that would not incur the punishment, because the Torah also says by Shabbat, keep the Shabbat, and it's also don't desecrate the Shabbat. Lo sasem alacha. The Shabbat has a dual. Shabbat has right, Morris, the don't and has the yes. What you say? Lo savasha gediba chalevimo. Don't cook meat and milk together. So the Torah tells you don't do it. God says don't do it. That don't do it of the Torah is that creates that if you went ahead and the court or the witnesses warn you and they tell you you're going to get lashed, you'll get lashed. But and in order to get death penalty from the court, it has to be a type of case that the Torah tells you don't do this sin. Don't murder. Don't be machal Shabbat. Don't worship idols. And you went ahead and you did it, that gets death penalty. It's the way Hashem says it. In order for to get the punishment of death, with the Torah, what you need, the source that obligates death for murder is because the Torah says don't murder. Torah says don't desecrate the Shabbat. And therefore, because of that, so the Torah saying don't murder, that gives the death penalty. Therefore, that don't murder is only coming to teach us death. It's not teaching us lashes. It's not coming for lashes. It's coming for what purpose? To give him death penalty. We need the don't do. In order to give the death penalty, we need don't do of the Torah to give him the death penalty. Therefore, we need that lo saseh to give him lashes. We need that lo saseh when it says don't cook the meat and the milk. The Torah did not tell us this death for cooking meat and meat together. So the Torah says don't cook meat and meat together. The Torah is telling you what? If you cook meat, that's teaching you if you do it, you're going to get lashes. That lo saseh, what they're telling us, don't do calculations. It says that, yes. Most you must, yes. Right, it doesn't say the penalty. So if it doesn't say the penalty, so that penalty is lashes. That's the norm. Norm is lashes. And that will now. But something when the Torah says koreit, you're going to remember your question, Dr. Navid? When the Torah says koreit, when the Torah says if your guy goes ahead and sleeps with his sister, the Torah says about sleeping with one sister, don't sleep with one your sister. Don't sleep with your sister. The Torah says that. But it's that don't of the Torah coming to teach you if you sleep with your sister, that don't do is teaching us you'll get koreit, or that don't do is coming for even teaching us the lashes. So the Rabbi Akiva says that don't sleep with her. Don't sleep with your sister. That's not necessarily telling you that if you violate that, you'll get koreit. That don't sleep with me. That you know what that don't do? It's coming to teach us lashes. It's not coming to teach us koreit. How do I know? I don't need a don't do to get koreit. I don't need a Torah to tell us don't do this sin, and if you do this sin, you're going to get koreit. Because the Torah could just tell us the punishment for doing a sin. Torah could just say, if one sleeps with a sister, he gets koreit. You don't need the Torah to tell us, by the way, don't sleep with your sister. In general, there's two steps. There's something called It says, Ein onshim elokein amasirin. There's something called the Torah's warning, not the witness, the Torah's warning and the punishment of the court. The Torah's warning, where did the Torah tell us not to desecrate the Shabbat? The Torah needed, in order for the court to give us death penalty, the Torah needed to give the warning. Don't desecrate the Shabbat. In order to give lashes on cooking meat and meat together, the Torah had to tell us the warning. Don't cook meat and meat together. The Torah will not tell us, if you cook meat and meat together, you get lashes. There's no such thing. The Torah wouldn't say, if you murder somebody, person gets murdered for murdering somebody. The Torah doesn't work that way. The Torah doesn't just tell you the punishment for violation, for doing a sin. The Torah first tells us you can't do this sin, and then the Torah tells us what your punishment is. This is how the Torah works. The Torah works in 2 steps. First, the Torah tells you what you can't do, and then the Torah tells you, by the way, if you did it, what the punishment is. So therefore, all the losas, anytime you give a guy lashes, the Torah had to state beforehand, good morning, Torah had to state beforehand, you can't do this sin. There's no such thing, you just give the Torah, just give the punishment without first identifying what you can't do. Is that clear, that Mr. Safdie? Now, being that's the case, so now what about a courage situation? So Rabbi Akiva says that rule only has to do with things that are not courage. For the court to give a punishment by death after an event, the Torah has to say, don't do this type of sin. But when it comes to sins of courage, the Torah doesn't tell us don't do this in order to get courage. Courage does not need the Torah to tell us don't do it. The Torah could just tell us, you know what? If you did this type of sin, you get courage. The Torah doesn't have to give us the warning. The warning of the Torah. Torah says, don't do it. The don't of the Torah. Torah can just tell us, if you do the sin, if you do this, you get courage. So why did the Torah come and tell us to don't do it by things that carry courage? But the Torah wants to give us, give lashes. That's the don't do of the courage. The cases that carry courage, Rabbi Akiva say, will carry lashes. Because the courage, the source for the courage is not because the Torah says don't do this sin, that's where you're going to get courage. You don't need the Torah tells don't do this in order to get courage. And therefore, being that's the case, Rabbi Akiva says cases that have courage, anytime the Torah says don't do this thing and it carries courage, they get lashes. Because the don't do is coming to teach us that there'll be lashes. The Torah tells us it's correct. Torah tells us it's correct. That's how you know it. But you don't need the Torah telling you shouldn't do this sin. That's coming to teach us there'll be lashes. Right, exactly. Very well said. He said, when the Torah says when the Torah says by the case of Pareh, Torah says don't sleep with one's sister. That don't is come teaches lashes. When the Torah says there is courageous one sleeping with one's sister, that teaches us courage. When it comes to the court giving a death penalty to somebody, what teaches us that there's death? The don't of the Torah. Not just if the Torah tells us, the Torah will not just say, it has to tell you the penalty and the warning. The Torah has to say the combination to give the death penalty. Yes. I mean, the type of sin. Again, Korean is generally that he's knocked off from the next world. He's knocked off from, but. Correct. Right.
So, hence, you're gonna have to witness it.
That he died second in the Shabbat.
So a lot of things are going to fall under not capital punishment. and might fall under the umbrella, in the next,
Exactly.
hence.
Most
why-
things will be that case. Go that way.
So now the question is, if that's the case.
You want to know whether the court will excommunicate the guy. So the Rambam in Hilchos talk, I think Hilchos Shuva discusses maybe 24 cases that the court would there's certain situations.
Right. We went through that.
Right, so we went through a lot of them. So we have to see which ones would they feel the necessity to excommunicate a guy for
So then that's-
because if a guy did tshuva, we're not going to excommunicate the guy. We'll take him out of excommunication. So even if the court might kill him, but if he does tshuva, we're not going to excommunicate such a person. Probably.
So if it says low and high,
So what's the low for? So it's a low and karein. The low it comes out there'll be lashes.
and if it just says high,
Then it says karein. You know what? You know what the proof is? Pesach. Torah says, I want you to bring a korban Pesach. And if you don't bring, and the Torah says, and if you don't bring a korban Pesach, they don't say so never there was no low. Don't do it. You know, don't go without a korban Pesach. Torah says, bring a korban Pesach, and Torah says, and the person doesn't follow what he needs to do, gets correct. Rabbi Shmuel, we only explain Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shmuel will say, no, he will say even a lav that's coming for karet is also coming for both. And I'm sorry, even if it's coming for death of the court, it's coming for both. He says everything is coming for both. The lav, even when the court gives the death penalty, it's also part of the general, gets the same laws of all. It's not weaker. I mean, here the olive is on Rabbi Akiva. He's the man. That's the law is on Rabbi Akiva.
so according to the Mishnah, that was what he was to the correct and to the-
And Rabbi Akiva also says that.
No,
Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Akiva disagrees with the case of,
we need the case where we get, but the possibility to get correct.
Rabbi Akiva says, since it was not necessary for Torah to say that, Rabbi Akiva says there will be lashes. But in the case of death penalty, Rabbi Akiva says he will not get lashes in that case. Shmuel says he would get lashes.
So he did that one.
The guy was warned by Gani Machal Shabbat about lashes. They only warned him about lashes. So according to Rabbi Ishmael, who give him, but Rabbi Akiva said, well, not get. Is that correct or not? We want to understand the Gemara doesn't understand the difference between a sin that Torah says gets koreh, that Rabbi Akiva says is one law, and a sin that Torah says gets death penalty, that Rabbi Akiva says is a different law regarding lashes. That's what the Gemara is trying to understand. Why does Rabbi Akiva make a distinction? Exactly. Why that punishment they don't get lashes, and this punishment. And therefore, it's showing you that the law with the courage come teach us lashes. But by death penalty, where we need the law of the Torah to give the death penalty, but it's only with the law. Therefore, the law don't do by a case of death penalty. It's coming specifically for death penalty and not for lashes.
Because it would be too much.
Even in the case where we were not going to give to, even without the that's a different approach. Now we're going with a different approach. Why? Because he
This approach works.
very good. So maybe I'll answer because at the end of the day, if we warned him about lashes only,
Okay.
so the court is only going to give out one punishment. Yet Rabbi Akiva is still going to say. But again, but in the case when you warn them only on lashes, so there's only going to be one possible punishment. There's no when you warn them about lashes. Let's say Machal Shabbat, you didn't warn them about the death penalty. You need the Torah to tell us that don't kill in order for the court, and you need the Torah to tell us that, and you need the witnesses to warn the guy in order for us to give the guy that. What?
Because the Torah says, don't get.
Okay.
You didn't need a warning to come tell you and not tell them hold the trigger.
But you need, I mean, you need to know in order that God in heaven should punish the guy in a serious way. But in order for the court down here to punish him, the Torah needed to say, don't do it. So now the Gemara said, now look at the Gemara. The Gemara says, Amalei Rab Mordechai Rabbi Ashi. Hachi Ama, morning Moshe. Hachi Ama Avimi Magrunya, Mishmei de Rava. Chayve Krisut Lo Smichi Asro. Sins that incur the penalty of Karei does not require a warning from the Torah. The Torah does not have to tell you, don't do this. And if you do this, you will get the Karei. Why? Shari Pesach Milah, Onash Afapishlo Hizir. Pesach and Milah, there is a punishment, even if he did not get warned. Even if the Torah, even though the Torah did not tell us a don't do regarding these two cases, nevertheless, he's still punishable by Karei. So it shows you that the don't do, to get Karei, you don't need the Torah to tell us don't do. It says there will be Karei, but the Torah doesn't say don't do this, don't go without a Korban Pesach. Torah did not tell us to don't regarding Korban Pesach. The Torah just tells us what the result of your action, and it tells us maybe what you need to do, but it didn't tell us the don't. It didn't tell us the warning of the Torah. There's no warning of the Torah by Korban Pesach. There's no warning of the Torah by Milah. And yet there is that punishment. Was there only two? Say it again. These are kareit. So these are kareit without lashes. Right. Because we learned from, I think from the kid, Lo Safstam Shor B'Disho. Torah says don't muzzle an animal when it's threshing, and then right next to it talks about the punishment of right nearby it talks about the punishment of lashes. So the Gemara learns out lashes have to be a replica, have to model this type of situation. All the Torah, that all the laws that says, I think that's one approach. There's another approach of the Gemara that it says Imlo Tishmar. The Torah says, if you had the Gemara, if you don't keep Torah, if you don't, good morning. How are you? Good to see you, Rabbi Mizrahi. The Torah says if you don't keep the whole Torah Zos, the Hifla, Hashem will give you Makkos. Remember we had that Gemara also. There's another source of where we get how do we know a person gets Malkut for violation of the don'ts of the Torah. Im lo tishma, if you don't keep the Torah, there will be lashes. Now I just want to end with the following point. It says Milah gets karei. A person does not do Brit Milah. When does a person get karei for Milah? It's it's not the father who doesn't circumcise the son. It's the son. Once he becomes bar mitzvah, father has a sin if he didn't do a mitzvah. Then the son's 13. The Rambam says if the son goes through life when he does not give himself a circumcision, gets someone to circumcise him, then the son is chayv karei. That when upon the death of the son, the court upstairs will be cut off from the next one. Until he dies, there's no karei. But the Rambam said, that's the Ravid. The Ravid says what Yaron says. The Ravid says once he becomes 13, every day he's chayv kareit if he doesn't do it. He can remove the kareit by doing it. But the Rambam says there's no karet yet. You hear Mr. Safdie? Rambam says the karet doesn't start until when? Until he passed away. Okay, everybody should be spared and be well, and everything should go good for everybody. Should always keep the Torah. Have a great day, everybody.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I learned something beautiful about the portion of Bereshit. It
Yes.
says in Bereshit that God created the world for the Am Israel. And why he created the world for Am Israel? So every mitzvah, everything that any Israelites will do, he getting ta'anug, getting pleasure out of it. And he said even the Reshaim Bioter, okay, still feel of 613 mitzvot. And he says, why do we, the question, why do we, when Lashon Hara, we're getting the nega, the sickness of the tzarat? Why are we getting the nega? How is that to do with anything? He says, because God is enjoying its ta'anug. And if you opposite the letters, it's become to be nega. So if you take away from the pleasure from God, when he's speaking, even speaking about something in a good way, but it's still kind of lashon hara, you will get the nega.
Very good.
You know?
And I'll tell you, Rabbi Feinstein said, I think nega is oneg, like you said, the same as the oneg, because when the person gets the sarat, he realizes what he does wrong, and then it does tshuva. Okay, have a great day. I'll say,
The day you went out, we did me and Yosef the learning.
oh, great.
We did Alachot Sukkot.
Take care. Have a great
Shabbat Shalom.
Take care, Yosef. Have a
Shabbat
great
Shalom,
Shabbat.
Show me this
Shabbat.
Sukkah, everything.
Shabbat Bereshit we have.
Beautiful, beautiful. Take care.
Bye, Rabbi.
Bye-bye.